Yeah, it looks like they're going to let us go on. It seems like for the really important shows, they let us go on. And for the ones that, you know, like I think this is probably the 4th show we've had out of the last 15. They've allowed us to go on. Okay, we're live. We're live on Facebook, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I'm not going to roll the show out for a couple of minutes. Let me just share it to allow people to get in, and let me share it to the network. I'm excited about this. This is cool. I love meeting new people.
Me too.
I spent some time on your page yesterday. I was really impressed. I love your. It's very authentic and just straight up and pure. Thought it was very pure. Okay, we got one person, Marita from Israel. Hello, Marita. Thank you for coming in.
Hey, Marita. We just talked today, like maybe 10 minutes ago.
Oh, did you really? So Marita,
Yeah.
Marita, we're on Facebook. If you want to be able to see the comments, I'm going to pull it up on, or if you want to stay in the Zoom room, that's fine too. I'm going to pull it up. Okay. Gotcha.
There's a chat. Oh, that's Marita.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we've had so much difficulty not difficulty, just where the universe has wanted us to broadcast, I think. If, you know, we just follow the yellow brick road, right? So I think some people are not sure where to find us. Okay.
It can be difficult with Zoom and Facebook. Like, the few times I've tried to do that, I was a little like weird.
Well, I hadn't had any problems with it. We used to use Be Live, and I had the same problems there. It would seem to be with our frequency. We would be suppressed sometimes, but I've just learned to roll with it. And if we don't go on Facebook, we're just going on YouTube. But we're live on Facebook now. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to share this out to the network and then say hellos, and then we're going to introduce our beautiful divine feminine sister, who's puts out some solid stuff every day and every week, and I think it's been doing this a long time. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out. We got 35 people in the house. If these shows resonate,
hi everyone.
if these shows resonate with you, please share, and because that's really how we get this out. It's all word of mouth, pretty much. And I want to thank everybody for their continued love and support and contributions, because they do add up, and they do allow us to continue broadcasting. We're over 1,000 shows now with this particular show, and you know, even though it's by the new 5D frequency, which to the human seat of your pants, but you know, in 5D it's flow, what we call flow. Hello, TL Guadalupe, my dear sister from Sedona, Tom Bear from Delaware, my brother, Susie Thomas in UK, Terry Willette, longtime supporter, Melissa Benedetti, good to see you, Karen Anag, Eon Boldy, Norma Costello, Marlene Warakawa from Australia, Marco Lepore, long time no see, my brother, Mina Milos, Donna Davin, longtime supporter, so is Mina, Carl Striener, Allison Engel had a fantastic show yesterday and the week before, and they keep getting better. I've got 2 messages yesterday on the show. What a great session. So it's very, very cool, Allison, to be sharing her energy healing practitionership with us live with me as the client, basically. Cricket Holden, Ann Christian Scuglin, Susan Dayan, Duncan Alexander, great show a couple of days ago. Can't wait to collaborate again. David Gagnon, great comments. Thank you so much. Tom Whitebear reminds us that Sophie Gregoire, I had it right the first time.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
Gregoire, writer, author, channel, reader, transformation coach, sensuality guide. She's at the www.thepriestessalchemy.com. Thank you, Tom Bear, for providing that. We'll talk more with her about that with Sophie. Gaia Man, Amy L. Brown, good to see you. Linda Scott, Amira Beth, our island mate. Michelle Trudeau Bruce, Maria Iverson, Sweden. Michelle, let's see, who else? Mark Dougherty, the beloved, beautiful, divine Morgan Lee. And who else here? Who else we got here? Detalis Tiara and Cricket Holden and Isabel Calaco. So thank you all for joining us. Without further ado, I'm Todd Medina, Soulogy.One Network. This is our primary show called Soul Speaks 5D. It's a conversation, and today it's with a beautiful French divine feminine that goes by the name of Sophie Gregoire. Close. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today and honoring us with your presence, sharing space with us. It's good to see
Hi
you.
everyone. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here too. It's been a long time. I've been sort of connecting with your energy and Morgan's as well. So yeah, it's really great.
Yeah. So I love that tattoo on your arm, by the way. That's very, very
This
interesting.
one?
So yeah, it's a flower with 2 infinity signs, and
Yeah, so it's very new. I had it done last week. So it's still a little, I'm not really used to it. So I'm seeing myself with that and I'm like, oh, that's cool. So it's the Unalom, like a symbolism of the spiritual journey. And, they have different versions of it, but this one has a lotus on the top. So it's like your journey, and it's like a winding road, and then you arrive like somewhere, maybe or not. And it's like a lotus, like it's blossoms.
yeah. Yeah,
like a flower.
That's a good design. It's much more realistic than the ascension that people just an incline, like the side of a triangle. So I don't know much about you. I did visit your page yesterday. It was a very good experience. I don't do a lot of surfing, but I found some good stuff on it. Good pure intel. How long have you been doing this? I mean, how long have you been awake, so to speak?
Yeah. So I've been writing like on social medias and like to show maybe in the past 4 or 5 years. And I would say this is when I started to really dive into this journey of ascension, awakening, and transformations in life in different areas. But the writing things have changed a lot in the past years. Like it used to be, like a different energy, and it has evolved with me. But I keep writing and sharing and sort of feel called to post, and so it evolves with my own like spiraling.
Right, it's like that on your arm. It goes up.
Exactly.
So do you connect, obviously you're connected. I mean, I feel like we're pretty much in a frequency of almost a constant communion for many people that have done a lot of work. Do you communicate, or do you identify or resonate with particular divine essences or galactics, or is it just the whole universe as a whole?
So I resonate a lot with the universe or source, maybe as a big whole thing. And divinity and the God's energy. I would say things that are very like large. Yeah, I would say the universe maybe is the thing I resonate the most with, as a very like general force sort of carrying us and carrying me and giving guidance and giving insights and sort of clues. And I truly believe in a sort of path, because my journey, my history has been really like this. Really, I think it's a good metaphor. Really spiraling.
Yes.
And very often I've been making new decisions, changing things and like following a sort of guidance and this sort of energy of being in my intuition and being connected to my body and my intuition and making decisions from there. And so I would say like the universal guidance, or yeah.
Well, that makes sense. There's people that come on here. Some people come on here and they specifically receive their messages from Merlin or an archangel or mother goddess or things like that. But at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. They're just different faces of the universe. How long have you been doing transformational coaching or energy work?
I would say something like maybe 2 years or a little less. So it started with I have like psychic connections and energy reading for the collective and also for people. So it started with cards and readings, like reading people's energies or having insights about a very specific situation of them, and then it expanded in a more coaching type approach, trying to help people, especially women. I mean, I work with men and women, but I really like connecting with women in particular, because for that work, because I feel that we move through the same things and struggles, and we carry very similar wounds, or Yeah, and so it has evolved in this type of coaching around soul purpose, also relationship and love, also yeah, different things, sexuality, different things. I'm sort of trying to address, you know, the different pieces of, I would say, life. If we, how to put this? If we decide to connect with our soul and authentic self and really be in this energy of being our true selves and our powerful selves, then as a consequence, everything, like every area of our lives is sort of going to change and going to be transformed. So this is why I like to have like a coaching approach that's sort of wide, to not neglect any part of life, you know?
Yeah. And you work with a lot of women, which makes sense because most of the, you know, probably 75% of the souls involved in these communities are women leading the way. And so have you seen over these 2 years, have you seen a change in the divine feminine as a group, you know, as a collective frequency, you know, in your clients, in your practice?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I feel that initially, and even myself, I was sharing a lot about twin flames and soulmates, and you know, this journey of there is a woman, there is a man, and there is this desire to be defined through the connection. And also, we were like many of my clients and even friends and soul sisters, we were working through that. So we were like, oh, I'm the twin flame of someone, and I'm moving through this journey because I feel called to reunite with someone. You know, it was very sort of linked with someone else. And I've seen in time how the people I support and myself and sisters and all that, we've evolved toward a more, I would say, independent and complete and whole manner of being in the world, sort of feeling more, you know, anchored and grounded, and maybe with a stronger inner masculine, so able to really be this energy, more balanced, and then not that much relating, like trying to relate with external, but more being something, and then, you know, seeing what comes and what happens.
That makes sense to me, because anyone who's been reading or active in what we call light worker communities or groups over the last few years, there was a lot of talk about twin flame, and there seemed to be a lot of attachment to twin flame. And then I think what you're saying is that the feminine went through kind of a metamorphosis, grounded in her own energy, and now you're kind of seeing a different type of male-female connection, I guess you could put it. A de-emphasis on kind of the old connotation of twin flame and more of into a divine union thing. But I think that's interesting that you say they moved away from that and then found themselves, and then see what happens from there. Like almost like they created space for other things.
Exactly. And yeah, I exactly agree with that. And within the twin flame partnership, so I used to write a lot about it, and almost only about this for a while, I believe. It was also sort of a little dramatic, you know, a little tense, like it was hard, and twin flame partners or counterparts was a reflection of like old patterns, old wounds, and things we were moving through. And then this happened and the energy was cleared. And so I feel the women that I know and support were sort of ready to receive something different, like another version. Also, that would be like someone that's more whole, and that's, I would say, a reflection or of a more healed piece of ourselves. And this is also how I discovered, you know, things that we know, like, oh, everything is a reflection of you. Or if you heal, your reality is going to change, you know, all those things that we say, like as within, so without, and so on, which is like, can feel like abstract at times, but it does happen that way, and it does change. And when we can move through something that's sort of hard and tense and difficult, and just go like on the other side of it, then it's true that we receive other things and we find more power. And I've seen that definitely, and a lot of this paradigm changing, and many people sort of releasing in some ways their twin flame person, and just, you know, having other experiences, connections, whatever.
Like begets like, you know. So if you're at one point and you meet another person and you bring out, I think what you're saying is that it was kind of fiery. A lot of people talked about the fire of the twin flame, and they burned each other because they were showing each other something. But then they clear that, and then they attract a higher mirror, a higher reflection, either with that person or someone else. I've seen a lot of that happening. What's your perspective on the divine feminine frequency? You know, we're talking energy, but that really shows up primarily in the gender incarnation and the physical. What do you see happening there? They seem to obviously leading the way, gaining more power. It's very, very interesting and intriguing to see what's happening with the divine feminine energy. What do you feel their role is? What's going on? And maybe do you have any, because you said you do collective readings, where are we headed with that?
Yeah. So I felt there were two different waves for the divine feminine, sacred feminine growth and thing. I feel that first we had, so when I say we, like the feminine gender, even if we all carry this piece, but it's true that it's easier to say we, you know, like women and all that. We had like first to maybe reclaim more power and feel more complete, I would say, to sort of shed codependency pieces and neediness and this sort of unhealthy connection that we have sometimes, you know, like seeking the support of the masculine or having an inner masculine that's not really solid. So that was a real piece of finding this sort of inner balance, finding inner harmonics, right? And then, so that was very like individual. But I feel that the second part of that path is ultimately to be with the divine masculine and to form those new connections, those divine unions. So once like the divine feminine sort of tends to be ready, I feel that her path is to bring oneness and this sense of unity and being in healthy connections with the masculine and loving the masculine in the, I would say, highest way and healing together. Wow. So I would definitely see two different moments in this journey. First, the feminine reclaiming her power, and then, healing with the masculine in a much more, like in a softer manner, with not all this intensity that we had initially, right?
I've got chills running all through my body because I was formulating my next question, and you just went right into the answer. So my next question, and you've already answered some of it, is, well, first of all, and I love the way you explain that so eloquently. It sounds to me like, and I feel this way, but I love hearing it from another person like this, especially someone like you. Is she? It all goes through her. Like that second phase couldn't come into place until she steps into her power, I guess, in a way. And then the second phase starts, and that leads to my second question, or my follow-up question was, what's your perception on the role of the physical representation, that's occurred energetically of the two coming together? What is the role of that triad? You know, because it creates a third energy. How important is the role of that union in the physicality as we proceed further?
Yeah. So I feel that, so even in the initial stages of like connections, or maybe I'm more teachers, or I like the word karmic. Like, I know not everyone resonates with that, but I like to say karmic because it's something that we have to move through and to clear, and that's offering an opportunity to come back to ourselves and heal something. So even when those connections that are karmic happen, or then different ones, it's always like, it's like the vessel, like the space where healing and growth happens. So, and this is when it's getting very powerful, because even if everyone can be whole and complete and balanced and everything that you want, deep down, I feel that relationships are one of the strongest, soul catalyst. You know, that thing that can really bring you to like as a core of your wounds, because of course it opens a space of real intimacy with the light and the shadow coming up and so on. So I feel that for me, the power of those physical connections is to be the vessel, the space, like the container where something happens. Would it be, I would say, a healthy connection or not? Even when it's not, nothing, I mean, for me on my own path, but that's a little personal, you know, I'm sure it's different for other people, but for me, the biggest catalyst in my journey were relationships and connections with the masculine.
Yeah.
Definitely more than I think anything else. Yeah.
I love what you said about the phase one of the feminine, and then phase two, which then brings him in really, and they heal together. And I love the way you expressed that about her reverence for him in the highest way, which obviously she couldn't do until she had that for herself, I guess, you know. Now you mentioned in your bio or whatever I had put up, and then Tom Bear put up, sensuality. And I would think that a lot of that is probably in regard to the sacred feminine that you work with, because you said that's most of your clientele. How important is that? Can you talk a little bit about the sensuality aspect and what you mean?
Sure. I think that's a major topic, you know, right now. And I believe that we don't speak about it enough. So I'm super happy to be able to talk about it because, well, that's just, I'm not directly answering your question, but we talk a lot about finding your purpose. We talk a lot about relationships. We don't really talk about sexuality and what it is, like, what is the sacredness of this. And so my work is more with the feminine, again, in a very specific way. So it's not that much about like tantra or, you know, the fact of connecting with another and how to do so. But it's, again, like the other pieces I mentioned, more around woman coming back to herself, also on that level.
Yeah.
It's also a matter of wellness and a sense of sovereignty, meaning if I can also take care of myself and love myself and be with myself on that level, on that piece of me, that part of me, then also I'm more able to connect and be with the masculine in the highest way.
Yeah.
So it's just like a piece of the same thing, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's so really, well, you talked about the phase one, phase two in general, actually in the physical representation at the core of our expression, intimacy, is actually the same thing. It was phase one and phase two, but if you specify it to sensuality or intimacy, it's a very powerful thing. And I bring this up because, and I've talked about this a little bit. Morgan and I reached physical helioscamos about 2.5 weeks ago, and we've had 3 or 4 experiences since then, which have just been extraordinary. But I saw it the same way, and as you explained it, she held the space of some type of knowing of what is the real sacred sexuality or the sacred sexual vibration, and she stayed in that power, knowing that not to go into the old paradigm or the old sexuality that we were conditioned in. And so I see it the same way. She had to stay in that power, as you talked about in the general way, phase one of the divine feminine. And then she held on to it. And finally, after a lot of, you know, the masculine came over and trusted and surrendered. And oh my God, it's an extraordinary thing that I think must be coming as she's received and shared with me, coming to this realm in a really big way. Does that align with what you receive when you do a collective reading, or as you have?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, it's a piece where, like everything, and it's so interesting that it's not that much out there, or maybe I'm not on the, you know, proper networks or whatever, but I feel it's not that much talked about.
Yeah.
You know, as if everything could work out, but then the sexual piece, whatever, you know, it's just gonna work because whatever, right? So it's super important to talk about that.
Yeah.
And how, like, both people can be of devotion to one another, but again, they have to find something within themselves first to be able to be of devotion. And I feel also in this area, a lot can be about insecurities. and finding enough, how to put this, self-love and love of, like, really love of yourself. Like, I feel comfortable with my body. I feel comfortable with the ways that what I know of myself. And especially for a woman, it's like I feel comfortable enough with myself to be able to really trust and surrender to the masculine. I have like a big thing around surrendering and around the feminine essence that's very receptive. So not saying that we don't have like a masculine piece, and of course, you know, but in this area, I feel that we have a lot to learn as women around the healthy surrendering thing. So the healthy masculine brings that, and the healthy feminine brings healthy receptivity and surrendering, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I like that. Where surrender meets surrender, there's sacred sex vibration. But yeah, and it would make sense. I mean, you're making me think about this. It would make sense that, you know, to forget about the intimacy for a second and the journey, whether it's masculine or feminine. It required a lot of conscious effort, self-introspection, going in within ourselves, shadow work, and that type of thing. We really had to look at ourselves. So if you take that and put a microscope on it and put it into the intimacy, it takes the same type of thing. But it definitely seems to me that, again, that feminine energy leads the way. They were more connected, right? And women's intuition and that's something that I think the men were shut down to. You know, our hearts were shut down a little bit. And as I experienced over the last couple of weeks and try to explain to her some of the stuff I felt, you know, within myself, was that I found this part of my heart that I didn't even know existed, you know? And I think that's the part of the heart that the feminine has been connected to, just my opinion. And it's extraordinary to allow that into your space as a man after all we've been through. So it's been quite humbling. It's been quite humbling. Now, what are your feelings on shadow work? I know there was a lot of talk about this for the few years I've been doing this. It seems to be taking different. It's taken on a different energy now. To me, I don't want to ask a leading question, so let me just leave it like that. What are your feelings on shadow work, and most importantly, in the present and in the future?
Okay, so I think that's key, like super key. Like, to me, there is nothing without shadow work. So I'm not at all, you know, I like to say things that are high vibrational, like follow joy and follow the light and try and enhance your vibration and all that. Yes, but this is more to me like the result or what happens after, right? But to get there, or even when we started think we've been there, there's always more shadow work to do. So I don't think there is a moment where there is no shadow work ever, because we keep going through new experiences and new connections and new, I don't know, we move through more fear because we do something else or whatever. So for me, shadow work is just key, right? It's all the Jungian work around what can we do if we don't bring the shadow into the light and the unconscious to the conscious. And this is interesting also because it takes me back to the relationship thing. For example, like that's just an example of how those containers can actually make us feel some of our shadows that we cannot see elsewhere. And then this shadow is sort of felt, brought back to the conscious, moves through, we find a new response, and then something evolves, right? Because to me, like the work from shadow to light is going to be about transmuting or doing alchemy. Like, I like this word alchemy. So doing some work from, there is a shadow piece, I can feel it, and now I know it, like I know it consciously. It's not just like a traumatic response or whatever. And so I'm going to offer a new response to the same type of trigger or to the same type of events, right?
I had an interesting discussion with Allison English. She comes on most Saturdays recently. She does what she calls depth astrology, which also includes dealing with archetypes. It's really about the shadows, you know. And I've been saying this the last couple of weeks. Morgan coined a phrase the other day, we were talking. She said, we're not light workers, we're shadow workers. But
Yeah.
in talking to Allison yesterday, I kind of could visualize this. We were talking about the masculine and the feminine energies, like the masculine finally getting to a point where it's starting to be equal, which created a pressure because of that, because of both, there was more light, and the light shines on new shadows because you only had a certain level of awareness. And so now she's pushing up, and the only way to push up to more light is to go through shadow. Because you know what I mean? Like you were saying a minute ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, and now in your practice, are you seeing more people, more and more people? Are you seeing evidence, even in your country, even in your community? Are you seeing more and more evidence of people of a wider collective awakening, an expansion in that?
So that's an interesting question too. In south of France and in France in general, so I don't want to criticize my country, you know, but I don't feel that we are very into that. So like my first answer would be here, I don't always feel very, like the energy here as a sort of an old imprint. Like it's very scientific, very rational.
Yeah.
So like I like to work also with these wounds that we have as women, and it makes me think of what you said initially, you know, that women have this openness, and maybe the crown and the third eye and everything is at some point more open, or we let it more come through. So what I call the oracle or the intuitive wound, right? Like the fact that we know we are empaths and we see things and we know things. But I feel that in the US or even in the UK, there are very like specific spots in those countries where you have a lot of healers, or where you can say, I'm an intuitive, I'm a healer, I'm a psychic. Yeah. While in France, it's like going to be seen very fast as something a little strange, like something a little weird. Yeah. Even if you can say it, it's like, yeah. So in France, still like, it's not that evolved, I believe, but yes, it is changing, but it's starting to change more with things that are more superficial. Like, for example, they speak a lot about diet and about yoga and sometimes about Reiki, but more like, oh, if I change my diet or I do yoga, then my life is going to change. Yes and no, meaning, yes, those are things. But what I see the most with my clients or myself is that when we evolve, then we start to be drawn to different food or different practices or different, you know, daily routine. But it happens more that way, right? We evolve, and so the energy changes, and so we do something different with our bodies, with our whatever, right? Yeah. But so they try to do it in the opposite direction, as if, you know, everything had a recipe. Like if I do yoga, I'm gonna, okay. So it's not very, it doesn't flow the same way. I mean, that I did it, for example, like a journey, like an adventure. It's a little organized here. Yeah. But overall, yes. I mean, so in the word, definitely. I see, you know, even this type of writings and astrology and all the energy updates that is starting to reach more and more people, that more and more men and women are just coming out of something and saying, I'm an intuitive, I'm doing sessions, I'm doing or not, or, you know, just introducing themselves as such. So, and also all those movements in the world, like the Me Too thing, and now about abortion, or all those more, I would say, physical things happening where people, because it's such a big piece of the ascension journey. I feel the throat chakra and being able to say, hey, this is what I believe about that. This is what I think. Because a lot that has been repressed is about expressing our truth, expressing the way we feel and what we think, like the voice. I believe that a lot of our healing has to do with our voices. If the voice is shut, like the throat cannot express all that's felt elsewhere. And so seeing that people start to share their lives and express their opinions, their views, even if it's unconventional and so on, to me is a big sign of things changing. Yes.
Yeah, I asked a similar question to Allison Eagle yesterday, and she said, I think it was Allison. I can't remember now. Well, I said something like, what's going on? And they said, whoever the guest was said, people have had enough. they've had enough. They're going to put their foot down. And I do think that the throat chakra, especially from the chair I sit in, I see it happen with people. I see them actually come out in so many of the shows, especially women. That throat chakra, that expression is so important. And I love what you said about the oracle wound in the feminine. Because I've asked so many people, like, when did you wake up? And they'll say, well, mostly the females will say, I had it from the beginning. But then I started going through life and I shut it down.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, right. Because I was seen as strange or weird, or nobody believed me, or and then slowly, as we all got hit on the head, we woke up. But yeah, I think that's a very important element of our collective journey. Is she had to come back, I guess, first before he could even think about it. And the other thing I think that's really interesting, I never thought about until you just said what you did. You see, there's so much history that goes back so many years, and we can just say 2,000 years, that involves France and England, Italy, even the Middle East and Greece, where that was where the beginning of the secret societies and all the premeditation, the esoteric knowledge being withheld and really kept for the, whatever you want to call it, the 1%. So I can see how, even though, for instance, the south of France, very important historically, is eclectic, can still have this underlying conditioning where there's really, the matrix is really implanted so deep and subtly in everybody that we would sit over here in America and say, oh, they're much further along than we are. But I saw a couple of comments here. It's the same in Quebec, Canada. It's the same over here. It's the same over there. So it's interesting to know that we're all kind of going through the same thing.
Yeah. I believe we are. And I really liked what you said about the matrix. Meaning this is the word I was looking for, but I didn't receive it at that time. But it's really that. I mean, in south of France and in Europe in general,
yes,
everything is like, it's all the box thing, right? And I'm sure it's like that in many places of the world. But there is this very old imprint, like this very old structure about you should be doing this. You are that age and you're a woman, so you should be doing this with that person and be, there in your life. Like, I've always felt as I was like a missing piece of freedom in France. So my journey has been a lot abroad. I was in the corporate until July 2014. And then I quit and I went to Cambodia, where I stayed for a few months, and I came back to France and I went back, blah, 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 blah. So it was a long journey. Also, with the twin flame journey was also happening in Cambodia. But so the reason why I went there was I needed to break free from the French structure, like the French mold. Which can be also very elitist and very matrix. Really, like, you are that, you've been like that at school, so you should be here, and that's all. We don't really care about who you are. And so the essences of people can be like shut down in some way. And it makes me think too of what you said before about the oracle wound and knowing that we are something, but not being able to actually embody that. And I've been through that too. And of course, I know many people going or that went through the same. It's like you don't feel safe enough to be yourself in the world. And this is when also we understand that a lot of the journey is about remembering or allowing something to be expressed and to actually come out. So when I left the corporate and went to Cambodia, I was completely lost, like, not completely lost, but nothing was the same. Like, relationships were changing, work, climate, like everything, friendships, like everything was different. And it was amazing because there I had like no box or nothing to actually I had to belong to. And so it just gave me the space to let out what was real and what was my, more like my essence. And I believe this journey is a lot about remembering more than changing or evolving. Like, even more, it's about remembering or coming back to, who we are.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that's a very, very well put. So, and now as a practitioner, we've had some on here over the last couple of months, or even since the first of the year, and they've said, God, more and more people are coming to me saying, I had a Kundalini experience. What is it going on? You know, or whatever, whatever, whatever it was that spurred them to seek something outside of the mainstream, such as an energy practitioner. If somebody is just waking up right now and just starting to remember, that can be very challenging. We've all went through that. You know, am I crazy? You know, da 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 da, and all that stuff. What would you tell them? Where could they start? Because it's so complicated. There's all these pieces, and everybody's journey is unique. But is there something that you would tell them? Look, if you can only do one thing, do this every day. Would it be shadow work?
So I think it would be, for me, it would be journaling. Like, because of course, you know, this is sort of biased by my own experience, but most of my changes have happened because I was journaling for myself or writing, like having this type of releases, because when I was journaling, the feelings or sensations were forming a bridge with the mind and becoming more conscious through the process of writing. So it was creating this, you know, movement from, oh, I don't know what's happening, I don't know why I'm feeling that way, to understanding what was actually going on. Wow. And it's been like a major help for me, maybe more than anything else.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that. Like when we feel weird or uneasy, or instead of being like, oh, I need to come back to my day, trying to express ourselves, like, I'm feeling that, I think maybe it's because blah, blah. Really allowing the, I don't know, the weight and the baggage and all those sensations to just move out from there to the paper, to the computer, whatever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about it. A lot of people you'll see, and even to come on the show, they'll say, I never was a writer. And now I'm writing all the time. But that makes a lot of sense as I'm thinking about it, because you're involving, you know, sight and of course thought and feelings and you know, so you're involving the physical senses and you're internalizing it, I think, as well as unwinding it and kind of helping you figure out what is happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you're an author. Have you put out a book?
Yeah, that's a long story. It should be out soon. It's not yet, okay. But okay. Yes, it's coming. It's called She's a Moon. It's very feminine type of thing, actually. Yeah. So the moon piece was coming, of course, from the difference, like the journey with the sun. So divine feminine, divine masculine. It's like many pieces of my journeys are poetries, are short writings, like channel writings, a lot about my the initial piece of my awakening. There's a piece around the twin same thing, actually, a piece around, like, there are different, it's a little like a patchwork, right? Yeah. But I like that because it's the way it actually happened. You know, it wasn't organized. Like the journey was, again, like that, like a little, you know, spiraling, and not, I wasn't knowing exactly what would happen. And so this is coming in the book too. You know, I think it can be felt that, yeah,
I like that.
Adventure.
Yeah. I like that, you know, because I think books, for in a big way, not in every case, but kind of have lost their impact because they were very linear. Chapter 1 is this, chapter 2 is this, but I love the design on your arm and the sacred geometric pattern of that type of book. It's almost like, you know, we've all used to pick up books and say, I'm going to open it up to whatever page I need. And you open it up and there's what you need, you know? So that to me would be that kind of book. I think that's really cool. And when you get ready to launch it, feel free to message me or Morgan, and we'll put out, you know, some posts and expand awareness of your rollout on your book.
Thank you.
Now, as far as, you're very welcome. And as far as your energy work, do you work with people online or is it only in person?
So actually, I work mostly online.
Okay.
Because I've met like sort of many people and many women through the writing. So as you understood, the writing started with stuff like Rebel Society and Elephant Journal like a long time ago. I was like expressing something. And then I thought, oh, maybe let's write on Facebook. But it was very sort of disorganized again. I just did it for me, like to have a release. And then, so this is how I started to meet a new tribe and to meet people that ended up being interesting in working with me and so on. So a lot happened online. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And now you talked about the journaling being a big part of your expansion and daily routine and what you would recommend to people, which I think is fantastic. How impactful was, it's one thing to journal privately, but then to go share it to the world. I mean, that must have been a little bit challenging or scary at first, but what kind of impact did that have on your expansion?
Yeah, it was very scary, very, very scary, especially in the beginning, because then there was like a wave, it was started. So the biggest fear was gone, right? I feel very often the biggest fear is when we start something or we take a leap or whatever. It was very challenging because initially when I started that, I was still in my sort of old life. So, with other people in the corporate. And so I could feel that everyone was starting to judge me because they were seeing also my Facebook and so on. So I was like having two different lives, my life out there. And so, yes, it was challenging, but it's a very good example of shadow work and what you said before. Like you feel called to do something, but you have obstacles and hurdles and something to move through. But then if you can do that and you go to the other side, you're really transformed. And I could feel that the thing I was moving through, so a lot was about relationships or changing career initially. I could feel that it was helping others as well. And this is also through those ratings, I understood that we are a lot like one thing, wasn't really about me or whatever, but more something that we all try to do, maybe, or all moving through the same type of patterns or things. And I really was surprised, like amazed to see that what was happening to me maybe was happening to a woman on the other side of the world. And so that was very like magical, this feeling of if I share my journey, also maybe I give the opportunity to another woman or another man to share their journey, because I like, oh, I can say that, or, oh, I can express myself.
Yeah, no, I do. I've seen a lot of that with people, and I love the way you put that. I have to ask you this question. Do you have any type of, and I know I love the fact that you're not stuck on any type of label or anything. You look at everything in the collective, but do you have any type of affinity for galactic or star family or planet or anything like that?
I don't know.
I mean, some people come on here, they have a very strong Pleiadian or Sirius or, Venus and things like that. And I just look at it as, the universe communicates to each one of us and shows us things in our own unique way. But I just was curious that.
So I feel connected with the Pleiadians, but I don't know why. It's very intuitive.
Yeah.
I've always felt that way, but I'm unable to explain anything about it because I don't know, I don't really, I've never tried to understand it. I just know there is something like that.
Yeah.
And then I feel extremely connected. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I feel extremely connected with the energy of Mary Magdalene. And
that was my next question. This is the second time you've done this. No, go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry.
So it's fine. So this is maybe the person or the entity or the energy I've been connecting with, like, I think forever. And even when I was a child, I don't know, I always loved that thing and the history of it. And I also feel very connected with, I don't know, the Middle East and things like that. So Mary Magdalene definitely is,
Yeah, I was going to say, because I want to make sure that we get your information in the last few minutes of the shows. Most people that come on, they get a lot of attention. So I just want to make sure that you're going to be okay with that. If you need some work and you get some people calling you, but what I wanted to ask you was, you live in a very special part of the world. There's a very strong, convincing alternative of the mainstream story of Magdalene, of the south of France, of the Cathars and the Templars, but particularly the Jesus Magdalene bloodline. And when I say that, I mean the frequency. You know, I don't mean this really the blood, the physical bloodline, but a frequency, etheric bloodline or etheric lineage. And you've kind of answered it already in saying that energy or that essence of Magdalene has been with you, that knowing. Is there anything that you want to add to that? Is there any, in your mind, an importance of the story and the frequency and the template of Jesus and Magdalene? And does it mean anything to you?
Yeah, definitely a lot. To me, it was a twin flame. So, you know, twin flame feels a little old to me now that I think of it. But when I was in that moment, I really felt that this was what I was believing, you know, Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Like, this is like the archetype or the two archetypes I strongly resonate with.
Yes.
And if I had to sum that up, I feel those are two people being on a very strong journey, but very individual.
Yes.
And to me, the most emblematic was they let the other do what they have to do.
Yeah.
It's like not free, like, oh, it's free, you can do whatever you want, but more free, like love is pure when love totally respects the path of the other.
Yeah.
And I love this, you know, this energy of true love doesn't take or attach or asks too much, but more let someone blossom into something.
Yeah.
And Mary Magdalene has always been for me like an emblem of the sacred feminine, like being able to love the masculine the highest way. You know, this is what I told you initially. Not saying that the feminine serves the masculine. I think it goes both ways, right? Yeah. Because we can serve the other when we are complete, like when we feel at a certain level of completeness. Yeah. So this is what they mean to me, right? I feel complete enough to love you in the way that you can journey for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Reverence. The reverence.
Yeah. Reverence.
Beautiful. So how do people, are you okay with people contacting you for
Sure.
Okay. And so how would we get in touch with you to set up a session, or where can we find you? The different places we can find you?
Okay, so I think people can just write me on Messenger or, you know, Facebook, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they have also the web link that I think you put there as a Priestess Alchemy thing.
Yes, I did.
So this link is great. There is like a contact page and there are the services there. But really, Messenger or the website are the best ways.
Okay, excellent. Sophie Gregoire. Got it right. I got it right this time. Thank you so much. It's such a breath of fresh air. Yeah, very, very great way to start the day over here in Hawaii. It's morning over here. So I know you stayed up a little late, but thank you so much. I'd love to collaborate with you. Soulogy would love to collaborate with you again, if you feel open to that. And like I said, if when you come out with the book or any initiative, you'd like some help expanding awareness on that, just reach out to Morgan or I, and we'd be honored to help you. It's a
thank you. Definitely. I'm just, because you're saying this, I'm just sharing there that I'm going to start a very feminine program soon with like healing those different wounds I've been telling you about. So there is this oracle wound and also the sensitivity thing, because I feel that for many women, sensitivity is like, oh, I'm too sensitive, you know, I'm feeling too much. And so by blocking this rawness and this realness, we block our power to. So there is those two, and then there will be things about love and the sacred feminine archetype, sacred masculine archetype, and also around sexuality and this abundance piece, you know, like the receiving piece, because to me, abundance is like receiving, also learning to receive, like being this energy of the chalice receiving and all that. So yes, so just sharing that I will be opening this program at the end of June. For women, and so it's going to be a very feminine sort of community, and so just sharing this here.
So that will be, they'll be able to find that information on that at your website and or your Facebook. Okay, fantastic.
Exactly.
We'll send us a note as it gets closer, and feel free to share your announcements in the Soulogy group. There's a very active membership there. It's not, you know, the biggest numbers, but it's about a 60,000 active community. And so it's a good place to make connections and to get the word out for what you're doing. And for those of you who are watching the live or on the replay, this is the year of collaboration, co-creation, sovereignty, and expansion. So let's support our beautiful sister. If it resonates, visit her website. It's at the bottom of the announcement on this video. And if you have any trouble with that, just message me and we'll get you there. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. All blessings to you and yours, and hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.